missing Commissioner Hawkins today, but we have the rest of us to do the business. And first thing is we'll adopt the agenda. Any takers on that?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the agenda from
I'll
October
second it.
6th.
Great, thank you. And, I'll need to vote on that one.
Okay.
All right, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ben, you gonna vote on that?
He said aye.
Oh, you did, I missed it. So did you guys look through the minutes? Did you see anything that looked?
Everything
amiss?
seemed fine.
All right.
Half page of them.
Oh,
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
Things happen. Okay, well, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as written.
All
I'll
right,
second that.
great. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now we're on to our public hearing. The first line up is, or the first one's up, is for the BDA zone. And you guys want to take it away?
Approach the mic.
Yeah, whoever wants to present, or if you guys have nothing to present, that's fine. I assumed you were here to present, so you just wanted to listen.
Well, I'll just mention, I mean, you saw the letter from the EDA asking for the change.
Yeah.
We sent notice to the property owners and the BDA that are affected by it, and included a copy of the draft ordinance change. You might see that the ordinance language is slightly different than what the EDA
Right.
asked for, but it's effectively what they asked for, so just a couple of different numbering things. And it's a public hearing, so I think we're here to take comment from whoever wants to
Yep.
offer it.
Yep. Anybody have any comments on that?
I will.
Okay.
Should I sit in the seat?
You should. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Beth Drost. I'm representing the Cook County Grand Marais EDA.
Yay.
Hello, Planning Commission. This is my first time in front of you, so I apologize if I do anything wrong for you. Do I have to push a button or anything? Okay.
Nope, you're good.
Cool. I've been working on this zoning amendment since I started back in August, and, there's been a lot of work that was done prior to this that, I hadn't been following before, but came up to speed on it, going back to when there was a zoning kind of change that added 6 units, 6 of the lots had residential owner occupied kind of access to it. And so that was one of the first things, and there's been more evolution since then that you've been here, you know a lot, but just to kind of summarize is there was that change, and then there was a change to the purpose statement, and then we had a change that allowed for services as uses as well. So in the end, this kind of wraps up all of the changes that have kind of been going on in the business park and what the EDA board has kind of been striving for in the last few years, and just wanted to acknowledge the work the city has done, and Marais before me, of course, especially drafting that purpose statement, which I think hits it on the head, and I don't have it in front of me. I guess that would have been good to be able to read for the public.
Yeah.
But it allows for residences as an accessory use, and we're just hoping that in order to, one, be able to finish selling the lots at Cedar Grove and make them more attractive to buyers, for having a residential option attached to their business for either them or their employees to work at. We all know how great the housing concerns are in Cook County. This makes it just a little bit easier to start new housing and new economic development kind of at the same time. And so I appreciate that you have opened it up for a public hearing, and that you heard me today. And one last comment is that it is in line with what is in the statute that or the ordinance that you have now, or the zoning that we have now. But also, this change is in line with the state grant program that was used to develop the infrastructure of the business park. Is Mary lobbied, or not, you did not lobby, geez, I didn't say that. Mary worked to have that grant language changed so that this is allowed, and so that is not an option, not a problem. So just wanted to bring that up to the front of your heads, and thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Do I answer questions or no? I just
I do have a question or two. Is it, do you guys, anybody else have comments first, or do you want me to just fire away? What would you prefer?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Question.
Have you received any pushback from any of the business owners that purchase properties up there without the residential use being considered?
personally, I haven't talked to anyone who had pushback that was pushing back. I know that they are out there, and I've only heard, kind of mumblings from other people through other people.
Okay.
And so, have we received any comments?
We didn't receive any comments about that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so.
I don't recall if I've heard that directly from folks, but I can imagine it. So
Yeah, just a question. And
I've heard more positive for it than I have against it personally, or in my position.
okay.
Good to know.
Yeah. Do you have any?
Well, one of the things that struck me, anytime you're talking about commercial use, combining it with residential, is always that the noise issue, right? Is always, and when I looked at the ordinance for that area, right, it was really vague on how we deal with noise in general, and I think the exact language was objectionable to frequency and or intensity, and then with respect to surrounding neighbors and properties, and as using them as sort of the standard by which noise is relevant or appropriate. That being said, it was a business park, and a certain amount of noise was to be expected and anticipated, maybe. Now that use changes a little bit, I don't know if that's come up or not, if we want to revisit, or you want to revisit, or look at the noise and how we handle that, or how we should handle that. But I can see that being a problem.
Sure.
But
We do, I guess maybe Mary has probably answered this question. And I don't want to say something that I don't know. Have you answered this question before, Mary?
I have not.
The noise
Okay.
question. So I guess my thought would be that there are noisy businesses in Grand Marais that, that invariably are next to residences, and we could look at the businesses that are closer to the residences and see if there have been any complaints or anything like that.
and most assuredly there have.
yeah,
I mean, Michael and I live a block from the Birch, so that conversation's happened over and over, that we just expect there to be a certain amount of noise associated with the type of businesses that the community has, and that's part of living here. I mean, that's the conversation that's occurred around noisy downtown businesses, that we kind of just expect them to create a little bit of noise that, in the summertime anyway, when people are outside.
And I see the business park in itself has its kind of its own almost culture, or its own identity as, this is the business park and we live and we work here. And so it almost adds to kind of the allure of being next to different entrepreneurs who are, who are building and living in the same place, almost to romanticize it, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, I can see noise issues with garbage trucks and residences as, that's obviously something, but I think we have it in other places in the city and, right next to.
Yeah.
I think there's more worth saying about that type of good neighbor regulations, but maybe save it till after the rest of the public comments, if there are any.
Yeah.
okay.
So any more public comments on this
Thank you.
subject? BDA?
Thanks, Beth.
I'm Pastor Dale McIntyre. I'm the pastor of the Cornerstone Community Church, which is on the corner of the Cedar Grove Lane going into the business park. Just a couple observations here. One question, first of all, just so I'm clear about what's happening here. This is primarily an accommodation for employee housing, isn't it? Isn't that the intent of this change?
That's not how it reads.
No.
Then, no. It basically will allow for the owner of the property to have another unit on there, either attached to their building or above their building or what have you, to rent out,
Okay.
but not as daily rental, only as, year-round or.
Okay, so
month-long.
someone could essentially then put a house connected to their business and rent that out as
Yes.
part of their whole business enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could they build a six-unit apartment building next and connect it to their business and call it part of their business entrepreneur?
The language is not clear on that, but I would suspect yes.
Okay.
Well, it says accessory, and we do define
Yeah.
accessory. There has to be a primary use first. So I think it would be difficult to not first establish a business. If you wanted to come in and build a sixplex, you'd have to have a business there first. And I think if it was an obvious token business and then a large apartment building, that we wouldn't consider that an accessory use.
So you're anticipating that somehow the residences and the primary business will have some logical, real connection in terms of the need for their existence?
I'm not sure that 10 people would agree on the definition of what you're saying.
That's fine.
For me, I don't think this language suggests that there has to be that sort of clear logical connection.
Yeah.
But there does have to be some way to reason that the residence is accessory to the primary commercial use.
And that's something then that would be kind of decided along the permitting process and all the rest of that, whether or not there would be an accessory, okay? So let me just be clear that I'm not asking that question in opposition to this at all. In fact, I want to say both to the Planning Commission and to the EDA, as one of the early inhabitants of the business park, I have appreciated the foresight along the way of adapting the business park and its uses to the growing need of the community and the changing need of the community, not being stuck in a model that is inadequate. And I have appreciated the wisdom of looking forward and doing that. And I have a couple ideas that maybe somewhere down the future I might want to pursue those same kind of things. So I'm appreciating that. We don't have any objection, the folks that I've talked to in the congregation, objection to this. Again, it looks to us as or at least the couple of people I've talked to and to myself primarily, it looks foresighting. Another looking forward and saying, how do we make the best use of this? And as an organization that exists primarily to interact with people in our community, having more people up there is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so that's all right. Let me just say one thing about the noise thing. And this may be totally secondary, but there's a snowmobile trail that runs right behind there. And there's a county road that runs right in front. And they're the two sources of noise to the only business that I know of in the park that's open on Sundays are the noise from snowmobiles and the noise from Jake braking trucks coming down the hill. Are often the kind of things that they'll stop me in the middle of a sermon and say, well, just let them go by. But what we find is that's a reminder that we live in a place where people live and stuff happens, and that's a good thing. So we don't find those kind of things as interruptions or as negative, the kind of thing that we say you need to build an ordinance to tell people to stop. Our neighbors, our interactions with the neighbors in the business park have been, usually fairly pleasant and amenable, and good things are happening up there. So, thank you for considering this. Thank you for the way that you've handled it and looked at it. Thank you for the looking forward and doing that. We find that to be a good indication of your taking your responsibilities mindfully. We're glad for that. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for your comments. Is there anyone else?
Hello,
Hey there.
my name is Tom McAleer. I represent the North Shore Laundry Services. So we recently acquired 2 lots in the business park. We're building our purpose-built laundry building is going up now with the intention to be operational by the end of the year.
Great.
Taking new customer laundry probably by mid to late January. So the business is moving forward. If this ordinance were to change, we would likely very quickly build an ancillary storage unit with apartments on our second lot. As everyone is aware, housing is extraordinarily important to successful businesses in this area. My wife and I also own Cascade Lodge and Restaurant. And for us, adding housing and buying housing has changed our life completely. When we first came here, our business was able to support 9 staff members. And as we sit here today, we can bed 31 people for our business there, essentially accommodating 100% of our peak staff in the summer. And that has really proven to be the #1 key to our success there. So any business that I get involved in the future is, to me, is #1 importance is to make sure that we can find housing. My partners and I, as we were building the laundry, we have secured housing to be able to house 100% of our laundry staff throughout lodging within the community. But it would certainly be much easier if we were able to build it right there on property. And that's what we would do probably within the first year.
Awesome.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Any other? Mary?
Hello, my name is Mary Somnus, and let the record show that I am representing only myself. I'm not speaking for any organization, although what I'm going to say is based on my history.
Right.
And I don't have to reiterate the housing needs. We're all very familiar with that. But I can tell you that the actions that have been taken in the past to bring us to this moment were based on the inquiries that were received from potential buyers at Cedar Grove. Over the 5 years that I sat in that chair, there were several potential buyers that inquired about being able to buy a lot elsewhere in the park than the west side where the zoning was approved, because they found the desired conditions the conditions that they desired on other lots that weren't zoned for residential use. And we lost those sales because they couldn't live elsewhere in the park. So I really appreciate that you're taking this up, and I encourage you to go forward and move this on to the City Council, where I hope it will be approved and that we will quickly see there are some sales that are contingent upon this change that will bring additional commerce and residents to the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them today or at any time. I again, only speaking for myself, but just because I have the background, I'm happy to transfer that knowledge.
Yeah. Commissioner Peters, do you have anything? Commissioner Krause?
I don't.
No?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
I just have a quick question. This is the first I've heard of it, but I'm just curious how, with the residential and commercial on the same lot, how they're taxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question for the
Yeah.
Cook County Assessor. Unfortunately, we didn't invite the assessor, and I don't know
Yeah.
for sure. So but I would hazard a guess, based on knowledge of other properties. They look at the use, they don't care about the zoning, and they're capable of splitting up the use in a given property. So I would think they'll tax the commercial part commercially and the residential part residentially, but to be sure, you'd have to ask them.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Tina, did you have any comments?
No, thank you.
And I assume you're filled up. We're done. Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
okay.
I'm good.
All right, well then, we will close that and move on to other business.
Well,
Do we wanna-
You gotta discuss and let me know if we're gonna keep going on this.
Oh, well, I was going to say that, that I do think that as it was changed, it made a lot of sense to me from where we were. You know, we had already decided that we did want to have residential in there, in the BDA. And allowing it to not be owner occupied, I think made a lot of sense to just kind of tighten it up one more level. And I also appreciated the way the ordinance was written out to prohibit any lodging uses in there, which I don't think that would be appropriate in that space. So I really think that it's just another step in the right direction for that zoning. And yeah, I would like to pass this on to the city council.
Yeah, it's clear to me that the housing issue in Grand Marais and Greater Cook County is not going to there's not a one answer to the problem, and we're just going to have to be creative, and I think everybody's on board with that, and making some amendments and changes to allow that to happen. So I don't have any issue with this proposal at all.
Okay. Tina? Yeah. All right. I would,
Hey, maybe, can I suggest a few
yeah.
issues before
Sure.
we move along? The first time the change was made to allow residential use in the business park, there was some discussion at the planning commission about things that could create a problem.
Right.
And, you know, partially that was the conversation about what Ben brought up, and the sorts of objectionable things that businesses might do that you wouldn't want to live next to.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a very sophisticated code enforcement system in Grand Marais. We don't have staff directly responsible for that or spend a lot of time and money on it. And we've spent a good amount of time talking about noise enforcement with the Cook County
Yeah.
Sheriff's Office recently. And they do have a much more sophisticated, and it is still difficult.
Yeah.
It's not that that's to be, you know, that we wouldn't want to have those noises or smells or anything. The reason we put the business park where it is so that those things could have a home where they wouldn't be creating issues for other folks. And I think it's only because our housing issue is so severe.
Well, but we have areas on the east side of town that have exactly the same issues.
Yeah. And
So, I mean,
think
that's not
maybe
really
anywhere.
going to be unique to the business park.
No, I don't think it is. I think, and what's unique about the business park is that the people aren't there yet. And so it'll be people moving in, and they won't necessarily even know that there's an objection until they start calling us. And I'm happy to live with that result. I think that's just something to consider. I wouldn't say it's a reason to not do
No.
it.
The
And I
other,
think-
the other element, they're not single-family homes, Mike, that are going up either, right? I mean, these are auxiliary structures presumably owned by the business, right?
It's hard to
And
say
if
what
they have
they'll
a hard
be
time
yet.
with a renter, that's sort of on them, right?
Well, I think philosophically I agree with that, but how it plays out in the world, it's
Yeah, no,
a
I
lot
get
of
it.
people's problem.
Yeah.
That one is, I think, easier for us to just accept because we already do in so many other places in town, like you pointed out.
Yeah.
The other issue that is something that we're going to have to continue to work on is the infrastructure was not designed to accommodate a lot of people living up there. And for instance, there's no shoulders on that road. There's no sidewalks or trails of any kind for pedestrians. And so this is a cars-only place, and of course, I've walked up there many times. Without a lot of businesses being there, it's getting full. And I think one of the hopes of making this change is that it's going to get a lot more full. I mean, that's the good news that we want to get out of this.
Right.
We might have to respond with a new idea of how we're going to serve that population up there with infrastructure, and we don't have a good plan right now. You know, if it ends up being a dozen people who work and live up there, and they just need to come downtown for services, they're going to have to drive or take their chances on that road. And eventually, if it gets full up there, that's something we'll have to deal with.
Well,
And
can I say that I am figuring that anybody who purchased a property up there or changes the uses of their property up there would have to apply? Isn't that correct? That they wouldn't just buy the property and then not do whatever they want without having to apply?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to rest with us how those lots are used, right? I mean, as long as...
right here is where it rests with us. Once this is passed, if they apply for this, then we say yes. You know,
Well,
we
but I
don't
mean,
say no if it gets crowded.
But we're talking about, you know,
yeah. Well, I would just say to you, Mike, that, well, two things. One, let's see it get full, and then we'll address that. Secondly, this town, I mean, I just walked here. I walked in the street. I mean, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
And it's pretty common. And again, it goes to the noise issue we were just talking about, and I just feel like, yep.
Walking on a 40-foot residential street in the wintertime is a different story than walking on a 24-foot
Right.
truck traffic street.
Truly.
It's doable, right? And, you know, you would hope that people are just going to take their own safety into account and how many people are really even going to walk. And yet, you see this problem in Lutzen right now where there's no pedestrian connectivity and folks are living and working close to each other and walking on the highway. And that scares the heck out of me sometimes. Again, it's not a reason not to do this. It's
Yeah.
something for us to keep in mind. One of the reasons why there's so much demand for housing up there, other than just the general economic need for housing, particularly to support businesses, is this land has sewer and is available. And good luck finding a lot of places like that, and it's relatively cheap too.
Yeah.
So when we've kind of made it that way somewhat artificially, if there's a need to make improvements to the infrastructure up there, that's the sort of thing we typically would want to special assess. So
That was my question. Are they
Yeah,
just, would
that's
you
what
just
would be-
assess those to the owners?
what to the benefited properties, and that might be a difficult kind of deal to go through. It's a future problem, right?
But
And we
it's a
hope we
future
have
problem,
this issue
but-
where it's so crowded up there that we
Yeah.
have to deal with it.
And hopefully
That's-
we'll be developing a community up there too, and those people can decide together, like, okay, yes, we do want sidewalks up here, or we do want, you know, whatever up
Yeah,
here.
I
And
think that's
so-
a fine vision for it.
Yeah, and I would like to see, you know, again, looking to what Beth was saying, you know, to see that community and have them decide how they want to roll with that.
Yeah,
I'd rather just see it full.
and I think that if we actually just said any residential uses are allowed up there, it'd be full in a month, you know? I mean, that's the kind of market we're dealing with right now, so all the comments about a willingness to adapt to that are well taken here.
is that how you see this, this ordinance? That any uses are going to be okay? I mean, is that what you're saying?
Any residential uses? No, I don't
No.
see it saying that, but I do imagine people are going to be creative and you know, good for them.
Okay.
The only limitations now are second story or attached, right?
Second story or
That's-
attached,
it's-
and
we're
it
not
has to be
talking about
accessory.
auxiliary. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But- We good? All right. Well, I would say that we should move this on to the city council for their eyes to see and make a judgment. So I would move this ordinance. I guess, we don't have a number on here, do we?
Yeah, it's not, it's
Not
just a draft, right?
It's just a draft, okay. Well, I say we move the draft forward to the city council.
This is number 2021.
Yeah. I see.
Might end up being 2022 dash.
Yeah, there might be another in there.
Kind of seems like we're there.
So that's the one that we're approving.
All right, and I can't remember, do we need to vote on that? Okay. All right. Well, all those who would like to see this move forward to the city council, vote aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Just one last comment, it's
Oh,
not
sure.
a big deal. The prohibition against lodging uses is redundant. It's not necessary.
But I think it's good to have clarity for people who are looking
Yeah,
to.
that's
yeah.
something I expect a lot of people will be
Yeah.
curious about first thing.
Yep. Okay, great. So now we're moving on to you saw the draft here from HKGI.
If you all just head nods and we'll call Jeff and say get going, we can do that.
Yeah,
If
I
you
mean,
wanna talk
I didn't
about it-
see anything that I would have asked for anything different. I mean, I think this did include all the things that we were thinking about. And I don't suppose Commissioner Hawkins said anything about it. Do you all? No? Okay. I just felt like it was pretty much what we were looking to see.
Okay.
We're on it.
All right?
Okay.
Are you good, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it seemed like I felt like that I didn't know what.
I mean, it's,
think of
I
something.
had a hard time with it,
Oh.
like, initially. I just thought, this is such a small zone, and I just didn't see a lot of value in it, but I might be pleasantly surprised, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I feel like it can get us, we want to do our best job, and I just feel like this is how we're going to do it.
Right.
And we're going to keep cracking the little nuts open that we can, like we did the one on the BDA. But now we're going to do this one, and hopefully we'll find other areas where we can,
I think this is what we discussed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, we don't want to end up with another thing where we've got a house that wants to go up but can't, or doesn't want to anymore because of its effect on the business next door. And it seems like if we could find a way to make it work, it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
So a head nod for you guys. All right. So now we're on to the master plan.
We need another chair over there? We probably got another chair.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Well, hi, I'm Greg Wright. I'm with North House Folk School. This is the team from LHB.
Yep, I'm Heidi Bringman. I'm a landscape architect with LHB.
And I'm Bruce Cornwell with LHB. I'm an architect.
Excellent.
So, I think I just want to open up by saying, I think everybody in the community knows several years ago, North House Folk School bought the dockside property from Harley and Shelley Tofty. They came to visit and one day and said, we're getting ready to retire. Should we go see a realtor, or you want to sit down for a cup of coffee? I asked them if they wanted cream, right? When we made that purchase, a bunch of things were really immediately clear from the community. They said, what are you going to do about our fishermen? And I'm pleased to note they're still there and they're thriving. There's 3 local fishermen now. right?
Excellent.
And people said, what are you going to do about our fish market? 5 years running, there's fish market. And indeed, we just had lunch there today, didn't we? And I love that, and they're moving towards being open year-round. And we did something else, too. We worked with the Angry Trout to build a new service driveway that we're going to share so they could create a pedestrian, fully accessible walkway to the front of their business. We sold them a slice of property so they can become a year-round restaurant as well.
I need that.
And we accommodated some of the needs of the city, allowing the driveway that separates the little yellow house and the dockside property to be closed as part of ensuring the safety of pedestrians and traffic at that pretty unique little. So a lot of things have been happening since we bought the property. And as you might imagine, we've been looking and thinking and planning about our future. And we certainly have dreams and ideas. We're far from putting a hole in the dirt quite yet. But we have to start to now ask questions about where are we trying to go and whether this will align successfully with the city's planning and zoning requirements. And so that's really why we're here. is because we're setting the stage for moving into formal construction drawings and things like that. And if you're going to draw formal construction drawings, you better be sure that you know what, that everybody's on board. So that's why we're here, I think. And just to confirm, there's multiple pieces to this puzzle of where we're going, but this piece down by the water is a key piece that we want to be in conversation with you about. So anything you'd add, Bruce or Chris or Randy?
Well, I'll let Bruce kind of give an overview of the history, and then I can kind of zoom in to the site-specific that we're
Okay.
here today to talk about.
Great.
Right, good. So, picking up where Greg left off, we're talking through kind of lots of big picture things, but what you see in front of you, and you saw, I guess, in your packet, it's roughly a 2,800 square foot, basically classroom building that's going to be down on the water. Not much different than the other buildings that are down there, a bit larger. The idea is it's basically an open space. It's really quite simple. It looks not unlike the other buildings that are down there in terms of like what we call the red classroom or the blue classroom you might be familiar with. It's rotated a bit differently, and it's situated between, where the old fish house currently is, but most likely will be relocated. So it's basically in that same location. And I think from the map up there, you can see the Fisherman's Daughter in terms of its relation to that. And so the idea is that we're going to be creating another courtyard, not unlike what we're doing, or have done on the east side, or the west side, sorry, over between, the blacksmith's house, et cetera. So what we're looking at now is we're moving into this next level of drawings. As Greg said, we needed to kind of sit down and just kind of put it for you and take your temperature, so to speak, or take the temperature of, what we're proposing, so we can then move along into that next level of detail. So what I thought I'd do is I'd take a quick flip through the whole project so you can kind of get a feel of what it is. It's a one-story building, et cetera. Again, it's no different than the others, but at the same time, give you a general idea. And then we can come back to this drawing, and Heidi can talk about some of the specifics of the things that we need relating to zoning. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'll do, and again, I'll do this pretty quickly because this is not necessarily the substantive part, but it is important, I think, for you to see the overall look. For one, we're obviously going through the utilities and the stormwater management to make sure that we're, controlling the, at this zone, we need to be considered more about water quality. And so we're taking care of that through a system. I won't explain it to you right now, but as you're interested, we can come back to it. But the idea is that process is underway. Obviously, we're thinking of a lot of pavers, a lot of what you might be familiar with, permeable pavers, so we can slow the water down too, so it just doesn't rush straight out into the harbor, but at the same time, makes it a very usable space for both public and activities and also classroom activities. And you can ask questions as we go, essentially. You can see we're thinking about how the floor plan is actually going to work. You see there's basically one toilet room, there's a storage room, utility room, of course, and then the rest is really classroom. And it's really one large classroom that would be divided into two classrooms when needed. Very informal, but at the same time, again, very open and flexible. Ceiling plan, you don't need to see those probably. Elevations, at this point, one side has some dormers to let light in, and the lake side, as you can see on the bottom drawing, there'll be solar panels. It's perfect solar exposure with the south-facing face is great. These are just the side elevations. It would be clad board and batten type, just like a lot of the buildings are in town, and certainly down by the water. No real difference there. This is a section through it. We're using all timber frame. Again, as you can imagine, why we'd be using timber frame at the North House School. So that's all being kind of considered. There'll be a green roof if all goes well. So we have some vegetated roofs. Again, part of the stormwater management strategy down by the water to make sure that that's, we're kind of being thoughtful about that. Just another quick section. Got a couple images coming up. So this is a rough kind of computer model draft. Everything looks white just because of the way it's modeled. It won't be in all white, although this could be after one of the recent snowstorms we had, right? Just last week. But this is looking, if you're sitting right now in Fisherman's Daughter, looking back out, that's what you would see. Again, this is if you were kind of at the bottom of the area of the current yellow house. Looking back, you can see out towards the lake. That's the vegetated roof on the front part. This is from the lake. You can see the solar panels. And yeah, just another view of that. We're hoping to have a little wood deck on the backside to kind of extend that classroom functions out onto the lakeside. And of course, this doesn't actually show the water and the edge of the shoreline, which again, I know the school's working right now a little bit considering riprap and reinforcing the shoreline there. So that's a real breathless kind of take through to show you that you can see that the scale is basically aligned with everything that's down there. It's 1-story with loft for some storage, because storage is important to all of us, right? So if you have any questions about that.
I can't picture it. I don't picture it. I'm looking at this, and I don't see where it is on the property.
Okay.
I'm looking at things that I don't recognize, and I do know the area.
Yeah.
I've walked through it enough.
Yeah.
So,
I'll try to help.
yeah,
Go to this.
what buildings are beside it?
So the one to the right is what we call the boat barn. It's the Morton building. It's the
Okay.
metal building
Yeah,
that was used by the fishermen until part of the purchase. And right next to that is the Angry Trout. So to the right. So imagine you're standing out on that concrete pier that's out there,
okay.
looking back. And to the left is the old Eccles Fish House. Is it Eccles?
Yeah, or where Tommy Eccles' Fish
Tommy
House
Eccles'
was, but
was.
we built the building we now call the Fish House,
Since
where our kitchen is, where our kitchen
where
classroom
the
is.
kitchen classrooms are. So
And-
that's, yeah.
What this model doesn't show when you're looking at it from the lake is the topography
Yeah,
that,
Right, good
really,
point.
Highway 61 would be way up there where the clouds are.
okay.
So that might be a little bit deceiving because it
Right.
looks like it's
The
flat
horizon isn't
behind
right.
it. Correct. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
just the
good point.
deficiency of the modeling
Okay.
tools that we have. But this would be looking if you were on the dock or on water, looking back, and
Can
highway.
we switch back to the one that
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from the back of the Fisherman's Daughter?
Yes, yes, I can
And
do
I
that.
just took some pictures of that area on my phone.
I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm
I'm
having
wondering
trouble
if that might
visualizing
help
it.
you.
No, it's fine. This is the pharmacy, actually. If you could, do you see it right here where I'm circling? That's if you look
Where the
way
log
back
cabin
up.
is now.
Yeah, where the
Yeah,
log cabin is,
yeah.
right.
That's
If you're
a-
looking back. If you're looking back all the way, remember you're standing on the water.
Is the log
looking back.
cabin part of this?
No,
Did you
no,
see
no.
it in the distance?
Okay.
Right, part of the thing.
All
I'm
right.
just gonna get a little close to you here.
Okay.
And show you where we're talking. So this is the new road, or
Yeah.
the new driveway that comes down from Highway 61. So this is
Yeah.
the back of
Okay,
Fisherman's Daughter. Here's
Right.
that yellow house. This building is gonna be right this way towards the lake. So right between, this is the drive down. This is the boat barn. and-
where's that, where's the wood shop?
Well, so
What we,
Where's the wood
I
shop?
think.
the milling shop?
It has the apartments
Oh.
up above it.
You know, yours is cut off.
Yeah, yeah.
So she doesn't have like the full map, so.
Oh.
Maybe Bruce, go back to the first slide.
Yeah,
And we can orient you, I think you're thinking of sort of their primary campus.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of your most usable space.
yeah.
And that is all over there. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we did a master plan.
Okay,
That's the milling shop, right here is what you're talking about, if you can see my,
I'm kind of a pointer, so.
okay, all right.
So this is the primary road down, and this is sort of their like current really highly visible campus. Over here is the campground.
Okay,
But what Greg was saying is they do own some of these other buildings down here, and they just purchased that building up on Highway 61. So it's really kind of like an expansion project.
which building on Highway 61?
So when we bought the
The
property.
offices?
When we bought the property from Harley and Shelley, so we'll go, so to the furthest left in this drawing You can see the red building with the gray roof, but just off the picture to the left is the blue building. And so that's
Right
the
here.
section of the campus that we rent from the city of Grand Marais
Okay,
and that we lease 25 years at a time from the
Okay.
city of Grand Marais. Right? So those are buildings actually you own that we use. And most people think of that as, there's the campus.
Yeah.
That said, we own the next slice of property immediately to the east, and that's two other gray roofs. What I call the fish house, where Tommy Eccles' old fish house used to be, the milling shop.
is that where they used to clean the fish for Fisherman's Daughter?
It's over on the right
No,
side.
Behind it,
it's
behind the
it's
fish-
way over to the right, way over there to the right.
That's
right
the one.
next to Angry Trout. We now call that the boat barn, because it's not used now for cleaning fish, it's for teaching students. And so it's the same building, it just happens to have more windows and a flat floor now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's way over to the right. And so in between the property we lease from the city and the boat barn, or the Angry Trout, is the dockside parcel. We bought the whole parcel, and the new building essentially sits immediately to the south or immediately downhill from where Fisherman's Daughter or Dockside is.
And
It's a big gravel parking lot right
Yeah,
now,
right
pretty
now
much.
it's not very memorable because it's kind of like the back of the house.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you feel like you're down there amongst the
Right.
garbage cans and the.
it's where the
trucks.
swings are?
No, the swing is over on the main campus. I like that you know where the swings are, but that's over there.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'd be happy to walk the property.
No,
with you if you
no,
like.
it's okay, I'm just,
Yeah,
I-
these buildings block this whole area.
it probably doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can see that it fits.
Is there a building on there now?
So
Do you have an
Well-
overlay of that?
Go ahead. You can answer that. There is the whole.
So the simple answer is there are two small structures
Yeah.
in that location. One is a small gray shack that the fishermen use for nets. And we actually met with them this morning. We're already talking about where will those future net storage be? Is this a showstopper for them? Not at all. They said, yeah, as long as we have a place for our nets, we should be good.
Is that going to be on your property?
Well, yes, because
Okay.
we rent the dock space to them because
Sure.
right, we own the dock, so they pay rent.
Okay.
That is the way it works.
All right,
And the historic fish house, historic fish house is on there, and we're partnering with the Cook County Historical Society,
right,
studying and finding a future home for that structure together.
all right.
And as well as restoring it so that it'll have a long life interpreting the community's history in the future. So,
It looks like, I think Bruce is trying to pull up sort of a larger zoomed out
Great.
view to
Oh.
show you sort of all of their property,
Uh-huh,
where these things come together. But if you just go to the right of where this new building's gonna be, you're like a stone's throw from Angry Trout Cafe.
okay,
Yeah.
So this property is very close to the Angry Trout Cafe, but again, it's between the Angry Trout and North House's sort of primary campus.
This is as it sits right now. So
great, thank you.
here's Dockside.
I like this collaborative effort here.
Okay. Here's the old
That's
fish
why we're
cleaning
doing
shack.
this.
right,
Old Tommy Eccles here.
Yeah,
okay.
it could, we
And
could
then
put it on
there's
Google
this
Map,
building
probably
that's
been
currently there, and then
fastest.
there's this little one down by the water, right off the dock. And they're presumably taking these two out.
So that's going to be
and
the
then putting a
fishnet one.
large structure right in its
Yeah.
place.
Okay, all right, thank you. I appreciate your indulgence.
Great, no,
Well, and don't feel bad because the North House has a lot of little buildings. So it's really hard to get confused with what's going on where, and they all kind of have a very similar character to them. So we are just essentially going to take two of those smaller buildings, move one, and get rid of one, and put in a newer, bigger classroom, which is
Okay,
what we heard from Greg and his team that they needed first, was
Okay.
just a bigger classroom
all right,
building.
all right.
Does that make sense? Now you're so curious, you're gonna have to go walk down there, drive through there to see.
Oh,
I'm curious
I wouldn't-
about the property lines, actually.
Sure.
Like that southern property line, it looks like that little house right off the dock isn't even on your property.
No, well, if you look at this plan here, everything, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, everything to the left of that, all the way to the water, to the left, to the west is the property owned by North House. Other than once you get to the
You
city,
can see like there's that sliver of Angry Trout right.
right here.
Angry Trout is this building here, or this structure here.
Yeah.
And as you can see, Greg was saying they sold a little bit of property to them.
Yeah.
So that they could be
Entirely own
on
their
own
property.
So they
Because they were
can,
kind of-
exactly. And that was part of the.
That was very nice.
The collaboration of putting down a shared driveway as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. So they own all that property. There's no conflicts along
Okay.
those lines.
Yeah.
So what we want to discuss with you all as the planning commission today is how our current, or how this preliminary site plan is working with the current zoning or the current code. I think we're not on Highway 61, so we don't have to worry about setbacks from the street. We are within the entire property limits sort of in the middle, so we don't have to worry about side yard setbacks, but what we are having to address is the setback from Lake Superior.
Right.
And,
High water line.
right, and so we worked with Mike Roth's team and the planner that I spoke with about a year ago when we were in the master plan process, explained to me that there's a 40-foot building setback from the ordinary high water mark. Now, that is generally established by the DNR. It's very difficult to get the DNR to come and actually give you a line. But what we discussed is that that's generally the same line as what's called the vegetation line. So having said that, we, meaning myself and I think his name was Adam. Is that right, Adam? Planner I spoke with? Do you have an Adam? No.
I don't have
Okay.
a planner either.
Oh, you don't have,
Be nice, though.
no, who did I speak with?
She
I know
spoke with
it wasn't
somebody,
you.
I'm
Wouldn't
sure.
hurt.
It was someone else that called me back and we talked about it. So what he said to do to get a line established was take a look at the vegetation that's on the existing campus here and also over there. And the first literally shrub or dandelion or patch of grass that is growing, that would be considered the vegetation line. So,
Whether it's 40 feet or not.
well, that's where, yeah.
Our
so-
code doesn't talk about ordinary high water line at all. It just talks
Just
about
says
vegetation line.
That's just the DNR.
And our setback is 40 feet from the vegetation line.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So,
See that little line that's drawn through their building?
Yep.
Right,
Yeah.
right
That's,
up through.
that's roughly where that
Yeah.
should start,
right, so.
if we were gonna build it to,
That's too bad.
So this
Yeah.
is why we're here today, is to put this large building, starting at that line, poses a problem for North House because truck traffic needs to get back here. What they need for space wouldn't be programmed correctly. And so essentially the site is really kind of too small for ideally the type of building that they want on there.
So before you go any further, I mean, I cautioned everyone here that what they can't do today is ask you for your opinion on their proposed variance that they might apply for.
Okay.
Because you're not really supposed to prejudge that before the
Yeah.
application has been made and we do a public hearing and allow the public to comment.
Right.
And so it seems kind of like that's where we're headed. I just
Okay.
want you to know that it's not appropriate for you to do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be going down that road. I just wanted to explain the parameters.
I mean, what it sounds to me like you're doing
Okay.
is making a fine argument for a variance application, which would be appropriate after you make a variance application.
Okay. Well, so I guess I could state that if we move forward with this site plan, we will apply for a variance. And, this is kind of giving the background of the constraints of the site and, sort of stating the hardship that we would need to work around.
And Mike, can I clarify, so if they have questions that as part of our application, they would want to be sure we address, would that be appropriate for them to share those questions with us today or not?
I think that you can do whatever you want, short of making any judgments about a potential variance application.
Great, okay. Because, I mean, I just want to confirm a couple things. So one, I have walked the site both with Mike and with Jay DeCou, thinking, okay, well, I know people in the city, I should check in. And like one of the first things they said is, boy, it looks like that shoreline sure is eroding. And so as Bruce mentioned, we are studying with an engineer what riprap coming in a sense like the angry trout, how that would work. Because if you want a stable shore, actually, for public accessibility, for building safety, et cetera, that's probably a smart thing to do. So we're working on things like that. We're really conscious that, that courtyard back there, as I mentioned, I mean, it looks like a pretty place for pedestrians and students to hang out. We sure hope it would be. And as Wendy highlighted, guess what? The angry trout wants to get food deliveries. Guess what? Fisherman's daughter wants to get food deliveries. Guess what? The fishermen want to be able to haul out their fish. We also need that cute little courtyard to be a functional workspace. And so we're trying to think, okay, what does that look like? That's why we met with the fishermen. That's why we've met with the restaurant owners, right? That's why we built the service drive. So we're trying to think this through deliberately, and while also obviously anticipating one of the needs of our students. Where do they love to learn? On the Shore Lake Superior. And our goal is to make our campus feel like this quintessential fishing village. Why? Because we're in a fishing village, right down by the water. And guess what? There are fishermen moving by the window, and you can walk out the front door and go up and get fresh fish for lunch. And to weave that all together into the campus of our future. That's really what this building is about. So, I don't know, other than wanting to know where the building is.
Yes.
And I want you to know that. I mean, when you look at this, what are the questions? I mean, that's my big question. What are the big questions that jump into your mind?
Trying to introduce you guys to the project so that it wasn't just a brand, sight unseen. And then, say this is the desired site plan based on what Northhouse has as project goals, and then find out if you guys have any questions. We do have a kind of a utility map too that we could go through, so you know where sewer is coming in or storm,
How much classroom space would you lose if you had to cut the building back?
Wow.
You mean back to what point? Do we, just so I understand the?
To the line.
Oh.
I mean, theoretically, if the building were shorter,
Yes, we'd lose.
how much classroom space are you losing?
I would say at least a third of the classroom space in this particular configuration.
And how would that compare with the space that you have over in the wood shop building?
So
Is that be about the same amount of floor space you have there?
in terms of the milling shop?
Yep.
It might be. I'd have to check on
So
that, but
this
it's
is
smaller than
This is
the,
supposed to be bigger than that, right?
yeah, we need it to be at least the size of the red building, obviously, which is about 2,200. So that's what we're trying to do. is make
That's
it-
what you want, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so to make
All right,
that
just wondered.
configuration. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, one question I had, and only because I just was watching some trucks in the back there, is turning around. I see how they get down. There was, even with not much being back there, there was a little bit of to get it turned around and getting out of there. And
Yep.
I presume you guys have had those conversations with the drivers and whatnot to make sure that happens. But it did look a little tricky.
They're probably
Yep.
backing out, right?
Well, at this point, we're working with them to figure out what's the best way to do that, to have actual access down there. Right now, everything's on the table in terms of deliveries off of 61 to coming down. It's tight. And that's what we're trying to do, is balance all of these things, and, being respectful neighbors and part of the community, and just wanted to share information so we could.
And part of it is, truck sizes change and evolve.
Yeah.
We do have a program called Auto Turn that does an analysis of a certain truck size. And so right now we have, we could share it with you if you need to see it, but we have the truck coming down, pulling in like that, and then they reverse down here, and then they pull forward. Now that's in a perfect world.
A Y turn.
Yeah, it's a 3-point turn, but does everybody get it correctly? It's only as good as the driver, but according to sort of typical design standards with the truck size that we selected, which was sort of the biggest delivery truck, it does work.
Okay,
With that design.
good. Good to know.
It's also not meant at this point to be really anybody drive down there. I mean, it really is staff and people who do go there on a typically, business reason. So it's not like the public's going to pull down into there too. So we don't have to worry about that as much. Under perfect circumstances, right? They'll all end up down there, but.
Only right now, it's posted that way.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. I think that's wonderful you brought this in.
Well, you mentioned, I can't remember which commissioner said that, but many times we have planners that we meet with before we come in, so that we wanted to make sure that there was some initial conversation, is really what this was about. So Mike's correct, we didn't intend to try to mine that. We just
Right.
want to do more of an introduction and see what
Okay,
issues may be. So there will be a formal, I think, application of something like this. So we'll be back at that point with a public process for comment and
then,
okay.
just to bring up the stormwater kind of preliminary design. So all of this is considered new impervious pavers unless we decide to have some of those paved areas be pervious. According to the code, this is likely under an acre of disturbance, so we don't actually have to treat the water before it enters into Lake Superior, but we do need to capture it, slow it down, and have it discharge similar to what it's doing now. Right now, it's just a gravel surface and just sheet draining straight to the lake. So anything we do would be improving the actual, water quality. And our civil engineer has kind of already thought to drain things away from this building to sort of a low point here, and that's why we're thinking maybe this little centered circle could be pervious. And then if that is overflowed, then it would backflow, and these are some spot elevations to help the water. So the backflow area would be, it would flow this way and then down and into the lake there. So that's the grading scheme. It's quite flat back there now.
Yeah. Okay.
So, any other questions related to that?
no, I think that's very informative.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Looks
Well,
good.
look for a specific application at some point here
There
in the
you
near
go.
future.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sorry I gave you such a bad time about where it was.
I love that.
I think you're going to get a personal tour at some point.
Well, commissioners, if there's no more comments, we would be adjourned.
No,
Do you have anything?
no, we're not adjourned yet.
I'm trying to get out of here. I'll get out of your way.
We have something else to discuss.
I wish we could discuss it.
Well, at least everyone should be informed. I'm moving to Duluth.
Oh, my gosh. It's going to be a long commute.
Yeah, right. So, this is probably the last meeting, this is the last meeting that I will attend.
Okay.
I wanted to play my part well, but,
You got a tour out of it.
yeah. I'm on a waiting list, but I need to get my stuff ready so that when my number comes up, I can just go. And I found this a little bit disconcerting, this experience. I don't understand how I communicate with everybody else on this commission or committee. My only contact has been Patrick, and that may be exactly the way it's supposed to be. But it feels awkward getting the agenda in the mail, printing it out, and coming here cold without being able to. But I didn't even know we weren't going to have a meeting last month. I wasn't even told we weren't going to have a meeting. I was told we didn't have agenda. I mean, I think if you want people to work with you, you're going to have to be more communicative. And maybe there's rules about not talking to members here in between meetings. I've heard of that before, but I wasn't told that. And I want you to know that it has been a little disappointing for me.
Well, I'm really sorry.
I just feel like I don't know what's going on.
Well, thanks for being honest about that. No, I can say for myself, it's incredibly frustrating having a panel of 3 and not being able to talk with somebody outside of a meeting, because of open
So
meeting
that is a
laws.
rule.
If
I
for sure
wasn't
it is,
told.
yeah.
I wasn't told.
And it's because it's a quorum, right? And so
I
that's.
mean, because we're this size, and so
Right.
if there's only, like, 2 of us gets together, I mean, that's.
But people need to feel like they are an integral part. And there has to be some way of making somebody feel more involved than I have felt. Okay, I don't know what it would be, and certainly Patrick is sweet enough,
I
but
feel like there's a lot of things coming down the pike that is going to get busy, when certain things happen.
Yeah.
And then, there was definitely a breather when they finished up all of the ordinance changes, and you guys felt very involved then, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, right now there seems to be a little bit of a.
There's a bit of a lull, but.
And I also want to say that I think they're talking about the campus looking like a nice little fishing village. And when I moved here in 2005, I was very impressed with Grand Marais as a colloquial fishing village environment. And I think we're losing it. I think we're losing it big time. And I'm sad to see what's happening. And that was why I wanted to join the planning and zoning, was so that, some of my ideas could be shared. But,
Can you be
Yeah.
more specific about what's being lost that you?
it feels like nothing is going to work unless it makes money. If it's not something that is producing money for the city and money for business, forget it. That's how it feels. I live up on County Road 7. I'm at the Sawtooth Apartments. And I don't understand why we don't have more sidewalks. I thought when I moved down from the trail to town, I was going to be able to walk back and forth to town. But it's impossible, especially in weather like this. But I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm just having my say before I leave.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of focus on making money, and I think we're losing our sense of community. People are not gathering. You know, I deeply regretted losing the Dragon Boat race because that brought the wealthy and the low-paid people together. That does not happen with the art festival or the ancient car show or anything. And this is not a big metropolis. We need to be connected to the community. We need, you were talking about high school kids and younger coming in, during that. That's great. That's great. There should be more of that. But I don't have any answers, but it feels strange. It feels strange. At one time I felt like, I was downtown and we're losing our ability to buy essential items for people who live here. We can't. I used to go to Joins. I used to get underwear. I used to get long johns. I used to be able to get sweatpants. Where am I getting that now? Can't get that in town. We have to go to Duluth or order it on the internet. We're not supplying the need of the people in the community. We're worried about entertaining other people coming in. That's all. We want to be this big attraction, and we're going to turn into some kind of a Grand Marais Disneyland where it's all set up for everybody else, which is why we don't have housing, because we've got all this Verbo and we've got this Airbnb and we've got, how can people have a neighborhood, know their neighbors, and feel connected when you have people coming in and living for a week or two and then leaving? I care, but I'm done.
Well, we, again, appreciate it.
Thanks. Don't mean to be melodramatic, but these were things I really wanted to say over time, which I don't have now. So I'm just kind of vomiting it, yeah.
Okay.
Take advantage of your opportunity.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
This is it. It's a little disheartening to hear some of the things you're experiencing, but it's good that you were willing to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important that first of all, for the community, that we have places where people can go buy what they need. That's got to be number one. We need more businesses that are going to service the residents of the community. I was just sick when Joins turned into some kind of a gift shop instead of, someplace where I could go get things. I could get a pot. I could get, the underwear. I could buy this and that, but anyway.
Lots of changes the last 20 years, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Some good, though. Some good changes.
well, I would hope some of it would be good.
Yeah, I heard this. I heard we're gonna have another shop in town soon. There's businesses are turning hands, and there's, I think if there's a void, there's enough people that feel the way you do about wanting to shop
I
locally.
don't know, because
then
I don't
there
have
would be a
people I can
business that
talk
would
to.
Pop up to support that. That's
I
the
heard
wonderful
you
thing
guys
about business.
and city council talking about this move north, not move north, have the liquor store here, have the liquor store someplace else. You gotta bring people in from the community and talk about it. You are talking in circles, which is a quote from the meeting, and it's because you're not getting any more input. You're just going around and around with your own feelings. You gotta bring people in and find out what they want.
Sometimes that same concept is why you wind up talking in circles, because you get too
Well,
many people in that
How about
conversation.
having somebody who directs the conversation?
think that would be really
Well,
appropriate.
and we do that, but I think that, bringing in those voices, at least as far as the liquor store goes, I mean, that has happened. They've gotten information and they've
Okay.
been working on it, and it's
And
coming
what
back
about the
around.
bathrooms? What about the bathrooms?
I make no comment.
I mean, maybe that little piece of property there that has the trees on it, not too far on the other side of the parking lot, would be a great place for bathrooms. Set up a nice little bathroom like they've got down at the rec park. Except you don't have to have showers.
Or maybe
know.
have pay showers or something.
Yeah, but, I use the bathrooms down here. I come here.
Yep.
I can't be running into the restaurant to use.
asking a lot for people to use, Pete's Bodies during, average Tuesday in Grand Marais, but.
Yeah. During
Having the
day.
restrooms up the hill isn't going to help people here.
Right.
I don't know, some of those
Yeah.
priorities just, they get tabled and they never get.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having the
don't-
city hall up there. I think you own the property, and you could build on the property, and you've got your own zoning committee to approve it. So, but you need bathrooms down here.
Yeah. I don't think Tracy will let that go. I think she'll be sure to get those bathrooms.
Yeah. Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciated the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Yep. Then, now are we adjourned?
No, we're adjourned.